All right, today's topic is multiplying polynomials. Now, we just got done doing adding and subtracting polynomials. Now we're going to move on to the next thing, which is multiplying. So multiplying polynomials, I think, is a little bit easier than adding and subtracting because you're really just using the distributive property, and you're just distributing whatever's on the outside into the inside of the parentheses. So let's start off with something simple. Let's do 2 times x plus 1. Okay, so it's just so it's simple. Let me fix that. It looks, yeah, 2 times x plus 1, right? So really what we're doing is we're just taking whatever's we're basically distributing, right? Whatever's on the outside gets multiplied by everything on the inside, right? So you take your 2 and first multiply it by our x, right? It's just the first term here, right? So we do 2 times x, and we know that's just going to be 2x, right? This letter and number get multiplied. It's put together. And then we do 2 times 1. Okay, now our 1's positive, so 2 times positive 1 would just be would just be 2. And that's it. Okay, so we really are just distributing. Okay, we're not doing anything. We've done this before. We did this earlier in the year. We've been doing this all year. In some form, we've been distributing. Okay, whatever's on the outside gets multiplied by the inside, and that's what we've been doing all year. But this just kind of puts a formal name, multiplying polynomials, to it. Okay, so that's the base of what we're doing. Simple distributing. That's really what we're doing here. Okay, we're just adding some small things here and there. Okay. Let's do 3 times 2x minus 2. Okay, so now we add in a number in front of this letter here. Okay, so first thing we do, still multiply whatever on the outside by the first thing on the inside. Okay, now when you get to this point, first thing you're going to do, multiply your numbers. So 3 times 2 would be 6, okay? Now your x is still attached here, so there's one x out of both of these, so your x just kind of comes down with your 6. So 3 times 2x, 6x, okay? Then you're going to multiply by the second term here. Now look, we have a minus sign here, which means this 2 is negative. So 3 times negative 2 would be a negative 6. And that's all there is to it. Okay, so it really is, so first thing, remember, multiply your numbers. 3 times 2 is 6, and then the x comes down with it. 3 times negative 2 would be negative 6. Okay, and that's really all there is to it. It's just distributing. Let's do 4x times 2x plus 3. Okay. So now we're going to add another element to it. Okay, we're going to add this x on the outside as well as on the inside. Okay. So now when we get to this point, now we're going to do multiplying variables, and multiplying exponents, which we have done in the past. Okay, remember, this whole thing is building on everything we've done so far this year. Okay, that's what math really is. Math is just you build on everything you've done, you've learned, you just add another element to it. That's what we're doing here. So first thing, outside by the inside. Okay, so first step, multiply your numbers here. 4 times 2. Okay, we know that 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, now you have letters. You have x on the outside and x on the inside. So if you multiply x times x, you're going to be left with x squared, x to the second power, because there's 2, right? There's two of these x's here. So x squared is going to be x times x, okay? So now we have everything. 4 times 2, 8. X times x, x squared, okay? Now we multiply by the second part. Our 3 here is positive. Okay, so remember, multiply our numbers. 4 times 3, it's positive, remember? So 4 times 3 is 12. And we still have this x attached here. Now there's no x in the 3, which means there's only one x, so the one x is brought down there. And that's our final answer. Okay. So remember, multiply your numbers, multiply the letters. Okay. We multiply our numbers first. 4 times 2, 8. Then we multiply our letters, x times x, which is x squared. Remember, there's 2 of them, okay? That's not 2x, right? Remember, x times x equals x squared. X plus x equals 2x, okay? So remember this is a key thing. Remember that. When you're multiplying the letters, it gets an exponent of how many there are. When you're adding the letters, then that's when you put the number out front. Okay, and the letter just stays the way it is. All right. So this is a key thing to remember when we're doing this whole thing. This part right here, multiplying letters gets an exponent. Adding the letters gets a number out front. All right, that's very key. Write that down. Remember that. Do something so you can remember that concept. Okay, very key, important concept. Okay, I'm gonna leave that up because so we know. Okay. All right. So now let's add another element in there. Let's do 5x times 2x minus 4y. Okay, so now we're going to add different letters in there, okay? So, once again, start off first thing, okay? Remember, first step, multiply your numbers. You have 5 times 2, and we know 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, now your letters. You have x on the outside, x on the outside. Remember, multiplying our x's. We're multiplying the x's here. We get an exponent. So x times x would be x squared. Okay. So we've done these two. 5 times 2, 10. X times x, x squared. Now we're going to do the second part here. Okay. So look, we have a minus sign. Okay. Now it's positive out here, minus out here, which means this is a negative 4. So if we multiply our numbers, 5 times negative 4, we get negative 20. Now we do x times y. So we have two different letters, right? X and y. Because you can't multiply them really together, you can just put them next to each other. X times y is just going to be simply x, y. Okay, and that's our final answer. All right. So that's really all we're doing with this part here. Okay, multiply your numbers. 5 times 2, 10. Multiply letters. X times x, x squared. Multiply your numbers. 5 times negative 4, negative 20. X times y is simply xy. All right, and that's as simple as it is. All right. Let's add another element to it. Let's do 4x squared times 4x plus, let's do 8. Yeah, okay. So now, same thing, right? Start simple. 4 times 4. 4 times 4, we know, 16, okay? Now, look at your letters. We have x squared and x. So x squared times x. Remember, when you're multiplying, you have to do the exponents, okay? So if you have x squared here and x here, remember you're doing x squared times x. Remember, when you do this, you're adding the exponents. You have x2 here, x1 here. You're left with x to the third. So your answer here, x to the third. Okay. Remember, multiplying, you're adding the exponents. X squared times x, add 2 plus 1 would be 3, okay? So 4 times 4, 16, x squared times x, x to the third. Now, second part, it's positive 8. So 4 times positive 8 would be a positive 32. We have x squared here. There's no letters here, which means this x squared just comes down and joins that. Okay? That's all there is. Multiply your numbers. Okay? multiply the exponent, or multiply the letters. X squared times x, x to the third. Remember, we're just adding the exponents of the letters, okay? Now let's add another element to it. Let's do 7x times 3x squared plus 4x minus 1. Okay. Actually, let's change this. Let's change this. Let's do minus 5. Okay. All right. So now there's 3 terms in the parentheses. Don't let that freak you out. All it means is we're just going to do one more multiplication. Okay. That's all we're doing with this. All right. So start with your first term. Okay. Start with your numbers. Okay. So 7 times 3, 21. All right. Now your letters. You have x times x squared. Remember, we just did that. We just did our x times x squared. And we do x times x squared, we get x to the third. Okay. Remember, adding your exponents. You have a 1 here and a 2 here. So 2 plus 1 is 3. Okay. So this part's done. 7 times 3, 21. X times x squared, x to the third. Now we move to the next one. Okay, so we have a positive 4x, okay? So multiply your numbers. 7 times 4, it's positive 4, so plus 7 times 4 is 28, okay? Now, your letters, you have x and x. So x times x, remember right here, x times x would be x squared, okay? Now your last one, you have, okay, so we're done here, right? 7 times 4, 28, x times x, x squared. And then your last one more, okay? Now we have 7x times a negative 5. So 7 times negative 5 would be a negative 35. And then your x here, you have no letters here, which means your x is by itself, and it's going to stay by itself. Just like that. So that's your answer for that one there. Remember, just take it one step at a time. This term multiply by each of the ones on the inside. 7 times, multiply your numbers. 7 and 3, 21. 7 and 4, 28. 7 and negative 5, negative 35, okay? And then your letters, x and x squared, multiplied, x to the third. X times x, x squared. X times nothing, or by itself, all right? It's just by itself, okay? And that's all there is to that one there. All right, let's do 2 more. Let's do 7 times 6x squared plus 9xy plus 10y squared. Okay, so don't look at it and be confused. Don't look at it and think it's a lot. Okay, remember, one step at a time. Okay. Okay, so look at your number. Look at your outside number. It's a 7. Okay, so there's no letters involved in it. It's just a 7. Okay, so let's start multiplying. We're going to the first part. We got 7 times 6, which we know is 42. Now there's no letters here, which means all the letters on the inside are going to stay the way they are. Okay, all you're doing with this one is you're just multiplying your numbers and then keeping the letters where they go. So the first term, it's x squared. So we bring this down to x squared. Let's do a second one, okay? Multiply your numbers. 7 times 9, and now it's a positive 9. So 63. And then we have our xy here, which means we bring this down to xy here. And then our last one, multiply our numbers. 7 times 10, it's positive, so plus 70. All right, 7 times 10 is 70. And then the y squared gets brought down. Okay? So that's all there is to it. Okay? Number on the outside, all it does is multiply by each number on the inside. the letters all stay the same because there's no letter on the outside to get multiplied with it, okay? All right. Let's finish up with this one. Let's do negative 9x squared times y squared plus xy minus 5y squared. Oh, sorry, 5x squared. Yeah. Okay. So, last one. Okay, ready for this one? All right. You got this. So, first step. First one's inside, outside, okay? Now, look at your number. It's a negative 9, okay? Now, your y here has no number involved, okay? So, there's no number here. Your negative 9 just stays as a negative 9, okay? Now, your letters. You have x squared and y squared. Two different letters and two different exponents, okay? It's the same exponent, but they're two different letters, okay? Which means that it means you can't combine them or multiply them together. So they just stay the way they are. X squared, y squared, okay? There's nothing to it. That's all you gotta do because they're different. So x squared and y squared, let's bring them down here, okay? So that's all we did for that one. That was easy. Second one. Negative 9x squared times xy. All right, so once again, there's no number here. Now it's a positive here, but you have a negative on the outside. So negative times a positive, remember, is a negative. Your number stays the same, okay? Now your letters. You have x squared here and an x here. Remember, when you're multiplying, you add the exponents. So we have an x squared and 1x here, which means it's x to the third. And because there's no y on the outside, but we have a y here, it just stays as y. Okay, so what we did for this one, we did x squared times xy, okay? Which means you multiply, you have x and x. You multiply here, which means you add the exponents here. 2 plus 1 is to the third. Okay, there's no y here, there's one y here, it stays the way it is. All right, that's what we did right here. Okay. Okay, so we're done with that one. Negative 9 out front, x squared times x is x to the third. Y, no y here, but there's a y here, stays by itself. Okay, last one. All right, so we got a number here. We have a negative 9 times a negative 5. So negative 9 times a negative 5. Remember, a negative times a negative equals a positive. So 9 times 5 is 45. Okay. Now look at your letters. You have x squared here and x squared here. Multiplying together means you add the exponents. You have a 2 and a 2. You add them together and you get 4. All right, and that's it. Okay, so we're just distributing it in. Remember, multiply the numbers where you can. Okay, multiply the letters where you can. When you're multiplying letters, remember, multiply letters, you get an exponents. You add the exponents. Okay, when you're adding letters, then put the number out front. We're not doing this here. So here we're not doing this here. Okay, we're doing this. Remember, adding the exponents, okay? All right, so that's really what all there is to this one, all right? So we'll have this. Don't get freaked out about it. It's all good, okay? You got this.